Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Bounty Hunter channel. So everyone knows the three things you should never bring up in a conversation: politics, religion, and money. Well, today we're going to burn one of those bridges by discussing the political parties that each major faction in the galaxy would fit into. And yes, that includes the Empire, which, as it turns out, was actually quite fascist. Starting out with the Republic, this government was a democracy, with all of the senators being elected, as well as the leader or chancellor, who were all representatives of the people that governed this rule. Now, while this system did maybe lean slightly authoritarian due to the focus on support for the Senate itself, as well as the close-knit nature of the Republic-controlled systems all around when looking at the political compass, the old Republic was generally right in the middle. And before I go any further, I actually do kind of have to explain this political compass that I will be sort of referencing and showing throughout this video. And basically you have these four quadrants here, and at the top you have authoritarian, at the very bottom we have libertarian, and then the right is for more right-wing politics, and the left is for more left-wing politics, and then basically whatever faction or group will fit somewhere on this compass accordingly. Now, while you may think the Republic sounds like a fair system for being right in the middle of political philosophy, it was not without its objective drawbacks. According to Padme Amidala, the officials of the Senate would often find themselves wrapped up in bureaucracy and also take long periods of time to make important decisions on planetary issues like the invasion of Naboo, due to the disagreements in between candidates. Also, there was apparently a noticeable amount of corruption among senators because of the bribes they were willing to take, which leads to a general distrust towards senators, as is shown by Obi-Wan and other characters throughout the movies and shows.
Oh no, I'm not brave enough for politics.
So now you finally know what they're talking about in Star Wars when characters always mention corruption. In fact, here's a montage of every time corruption is mentioned in the series. Just kidding, I'm not going to do that much editing, sorry. One could also argue that the Republic leaned more to the right, since they were focused on upholding the beliefs and traditions of the same government that had worked for the last few centuries, and also the fact that they obviously had little care for equality due to the lenient attitude towards slavery throughout the galaxy, as was experienced by Anakin Skywalker. And in case you're confused by that, basically what I'm getting at is that generally with left-wing politics, they tend to focus heavily on equality throughout the system, so therefore if the Republic kind of looked over that a little bit, it would make sense if they would maybe lean the other way. The citizens of this rule would allow the elected Chancellor Palpatine to be granted emergency powers, which he used to manipulate the Senate into believing a dictatorship would be necessary to end the Clone Wars, leading to the creation of the First Galactic Empire. And of course, after the Republic, next up we have the actual Empire itself, and it was completely authoritarian with intense regulations surrounding all of its planets and people, and everything was decided through the government and military, which meant little to no freedom was allowed for the citizens. This empire basically was a bunch of different territories or systems across the galaxy that were all ruled by one centralized executive authority that ruled it all through propaganda and an imperial navy. This system also, of course, served as a dictatorship, since one man, Emperor Palpatine, controlled everything from laws to military to even the planets that would and wouldn't be blown up by the Death Star. Unfortunately, it seems that Alderaan was not quite so lucky, and while an imperial senate existed in the early years of the Empire, over time the system changed into that of a stratocracy, as military chiefs became more important in deciding the fates of the citizens than the actual politicians themselves. The Empire was also fascist, which meant it held a philosophy centered around military totalitarianism, which can not only be obviously demonstrated by the Galactic Empire, but also that of the First Order later on. George Lucas purposefully worked with concept artist Ralph McQuarrie to craft a design for the stormtroopers and empire that would be reminiscent of Nazi imagery. And throughout all of the Lucas saga, including the original trilogy, heavy political undertones are present, like how he made the empire to represent the ever-growing consumerist and capitalist movement of America in the 1900s, and how this affected the country, while the rebels were reminiscent of the Viet Cong in the Vietnam War. Maybe if the empire had better ideals and wasn't so, insane, an authoritarian rule could have been effective for the galaxy. And in my opinion, no, just kidding, that would literally destroy the purpose of this informative video if I just started overlaying my opinions onto things, so I don't want to do that. On to the Separatists. They were an alliance of star systems that were funded by big companies like the Trade Federation, Techno Union, and even the banking clan that wanted to leave the Republic due to government corruption and high taxation. This was led by Count Dooku and secretly Darth Sidious, who was controlling both sides of the Clone Wars at this time. The Confederacy of Independent Systems, as it was called, was heavily libertarian, as they believed in freeing the galaxy from the stricter Republic rule, and also operated in a democratic government that had elected officials from their many planets. We can assume that this means the Separatists were the Republicans of the Star Wars universe and leaned more to the right, as they were owned by mega corporations, disliked the enforcement of the Republic, and also hated the taxes that they were forced to pay. The Rebel Alliance, on the other hand, was similar but also different to the CIS, in the sense that their beliefs included giving rights of freedom back to the people in opposition to the Empire, restoring liberty to the galaxy, and also just opposing and destroying the reign of the Empire altogether, which added up to a much more libertarian system that wanted to bring down the greater power. However, they could also be thought of as a more left-wing society due to the strong focus on equality in the galaxy among individuals, as well as the strong movement towards change away from the previous empire, which generally fits with the progressive views of most left-wing parties. However, another example of an authoritarian government is the gangster empire under Jabba the Hutt that was a criminalistic organizational body ruled by the one individual of Jabba, who was also into the market of buying and selling individuals who had no rights, aka slaves. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. I upload every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I also post shorts on Saturday. But yeah, see ya.